Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big because it's election season and we're interviewing the candidates for the various state and county offices in Wicomico. Today we have Dan O'Hare, who's running for state delegate in District 37B, which is Western Wicomico, some Southern Wicomico. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, there's two delegates in this district. You're one of three people running for two seats. New to the area, you're a Democrat, the other two are Republican. What are you looking to achieve in this election?
Sure. So first, I'm not new to the area. I was born and raised here.
I'm sorry, okay.
That's all right. I was born and raised in Worcester County.
Okay.
So completely different world than Wicomico County, I understand. But I left when I was 18 to go to college for a brief period of time and then knocked around a lot. Came back here permanently 4 years ago. We were here part-time a few years before that. So
Okay.
we've been around for 6 or 7 years. But to get to your question, apologize for the tangent. What I'm hoping to accomplish with this election is really trying to get the word out about certain issues. There's certain issues that I feel are very important and not being addressed. Or at least if they're being addressed, maybe they're not being addressed as well as they should be, and we could do better with them.
No, there's a lot we ignore, so that this is good.
Yeah, so some of those issues being the mental health and the stigma around mental health. It's very important to me. I think that we're working on breaking down the stigma. We could do better. Talbot County, which is in my district as well. My district is not just Western Wicomico, it's also...
Right, in terms of us voting, yes.
Right, yeah, it's also Talbot County, part of Caroline, and Dorchester County. And Talbot County does a wonderful thing where they bring therapists into schools. Every school has therapists. They're embedded in the school, and they're there specifically. These are not school psychologists. They're there specifically to talk to kids who have issues. You can talk to a kid about, kids who have depression issues, kids that have suicidal thoughts. They have a place to go speak to a healthcare professional. That's done a great job in removing the stigma of mental health, around mental health. We should do that everywhere. We should have that in Salisbury. We should have it in Wicomico County. We should have it in Dorchester County. We should have it in every county in Maryland. And I think hopefully we will someday. So that's one of the issues.
Okay, what else?
Obviously, the environment is incredibly important. I think we've finally started to move past the idea that climate change isn't real. Finally, people, for 20 or 30 years, a lot of people have claimed climate change isn't real. They've now started to be quiet about that. They realize it is happening. But unfortunately, a lot of stuff is going to be too little too late. Like, we need to make basic changes in our lifestyle. We have to embrace green energy. We absolutely need wind and solar, and we need to get off the fossil fuel, train, yeah. Wagon. There's a lot of words you could use for it, but we need to get away from the fossil fuels and into green energy. And
you look at a place like Dorchester, where the water level, you could see it rising now, and the impact on residents. Someone's going to have to help sort all this out.
Yeah, we're losing their current mortgages. I'm in real estate, and their current mortgages affected by climate change. That those houses will be gone in the current life of the mortgage. It's a serious problem in all industries, obviously, and for our way of life. So I think we have more here that we need to protect than we have resources for, and so that's why we have to address this on a state level. This can't be a county level.
How do you run in a district that's so big? Because it is all the way to Easton and back. The one delegate's from St. Michael's, one delegate's actually from Salisbury, which is sort of rare in this process. But how are you able to keep your eyeball in that direction and know those people?
Well, my friend Bill Duck has a Prius, so he drives me a lot.
Which is very environmental.
We put a lot of miles on the car. We travel a lot. I spend sometimes afternoons in Easton. Hit Cambridge on the way home. Cambridge, the entirety of Cambridge isn't my district, but sections are,
right.
And the Democratic headquarters is in Cambridge. There is. And then, spend the evenings in Wicomico, and sometimes the other way around. Try to go to Caroline for lunch if I can.
Right.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. There's 60,000 plus registered voters in the district. They don't all vote, but it's hard to reach all of them, certainly with limited resources.
What are they telling you? What are their concerns?
We get a broad range of concerns. Most people claim to be concerned about the environment, which is great to hear. But I think a lot of people are overwhelmed, and they feel that things are too daunting. I think one of the big issues that I talk a lot about is broadband. And I had no idea broadband was an issue. I happen to have cable where I live. It just runs down Riverside Drive Extended
Right.
just to my house, basically. So I didn't think that was a big issue. But so many people had come and talked to me about it. I have now done a ton of research, and I've talked to county engineers about it and figured out what needs to be done. And it needs to be looked at as a universal service. It needs to be looked at as every single person must get broadband or some form of high-speed internet in order for it to be fair, for them to be able to compete in education and healthcare and so many other aspects. So, and just for us to compete for companies, we need that broadband to be everywhere down here. So it has to be looked at as a public utility, and so many people have spoken to me about that. It's shocking me, and it's something I didn't expect from the outset. And then opioids. I mean, opioids are another huge issue that a lot of people have spoken to me about. Cannabis, another big issue a lot of people have spoken to me about. These are issues that, people don't understand why the laws are the way they are. And they don't understand why, how opioids got to become a political
Right.
issue. I have no idea. But how someone could, what Carrozza's doing, like how that could be made into a political boogeyman,
Right.
when really we're just trying to figure out any way to keep people from dying.
And this
It's
is
just
where
an
Mary Beth
awful
Carrozza
idea.
was running against Jim Mathias. There was a mailer that criticized.
It's not just a mailer; it's pop-up ads now
Right.
and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's prevalent, and people are upset. People are upset that this has been a politicized issue. So
37B and 38B, the representative down in Somerset County, historically, the State House, those have been seats that the other delegates turned to them for knowledge on waterman issues and bay issues. Where are you on all that?
I have a good friend who's a waterman, and we talk a lot about the challenges that watermen face. And there is not going to be a solution to save the bay or fix the bay. We've worked very hard on it up to this point, but there's not going to be a solution that doesn't cost money. I mean, that's the reality of it. We need lots of money in order to be able to save the bay. Our populations are growing. The population around the bay is growing. The watershed, the issue that we have with the Chesapeake Bay watershed is from Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
Like most of the pollution is coming from Pennsylvania. The airshed around the Chesapeake Bay is 90% of the air pollution doesn't come from Maryland. I mean, we need to have interstate agencies working on preventing pollution in other places so that the bay isn't polluted. These are all things that obviously affect the bay. Obviously, oysters and underwater grass are two incredibly important things for the health of the bay for watermen. I think Jesse Colvin has a great idea with getting 52 billion oysters. I think Ben Jealous also talks about how
Right.
we have to seed lots and lots of oysters, but it's going to cost money, and we have to free up those resources in order to do it.
You get elected, you get up there, you get involved. How are you going to define accomplishment on your part? What has to happen for you to go, hey, I've done this job well?
That's a very good question. I don't think that I've even considered like an end game
Right.
to anything, or this is my idea of a final goal to get to. There's not a specific issue, one specific issue that I think we need to address. And if we address that, everything's good. I think there's a lot of amazing things about our society, a lot of wonderful things about our society. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed, and there's a lot of people suffering. I think that if I get to Annapolis, I'll at least be a voice for those people who are suffering. We'll see. I mean, the problem is our system is set up in a certain way that it's very difficult for anyone to do one thing in a short amount of time. But broadband is something that we absolutely can accomplish. We have all the ability in the world to accomplish this. The technology exists, that we just need the will to do it. So if there was one thing I would say, like, yes, this is something that we can absolutely do, and it would be a great accomplishment, it would be universal broadband.
How can people get a hold of you, find out more about you, reach you?
Yeah, so DanO'Hare4Maryland.com is my website. Dan.Ford.Maryland spelled out at gmail.com is my email. I'm on Facebook, Dan O'Hare for Maryland Delegate 37B. Pretty, you can come knock on my door. You can give me a phone call. I'm around town a lot, so I'm very responsive to anyone that sends me any information. So.
He's Dan O'Hare. He's running for state delegate 37B. Welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Joining me now in the studio is incumbent Johnny Mouths, who is from District 37B. He's seeking re-election. Welcome, Johnny.
Greg, thanks a million. It's awesome to be back with you.
So you've just finished one term in the General Assembly, essentially. You're running for a second term. Why do you want to do this?
Well, we had a really good term, 4 years, a lot of successes.
It was fast, wasn't it?
It was very quick, and we learned some really important lessons. Life goes on. I'm happily married to 2 wonderful kids. We've got a family business and things, and I had to think about it. What is your plan? And over those 4 years, I've learned a lot, and I think very strongly that there's a lot more that I can do to help our community in the Eastern Shore by going back to the House of Delegates for 4 more years. I'm a fan. I'm a supporter of term limits. But I know there's a definite learning curve in your first term. And really, by the time you get to the 4th year, you're kicking on all cylinders, but then it's time to run for re-election. Well, I've still got plenty of energy. In fact, I've got more energy to run for re-election now than I did 4 years ago, because I know so much more about Annapolis and what's going on in the state. And it's a really exciting time. So I'm 100% committed, and I'm as excited as ever to put this campaign together and get ready to go back, because I know in 4 more years there's a lot of issues we're working on that we can bring to fruition to help our community.
Well, 37B is a tough district. You've got about 20% of the district is in Wicomico County, western Wicomico, but it goes all the way out to where you live, St. Michael's, Easton. How do you navigate a district that's so winding and big?
You really can't. You have to delegate, you have to know people in all portions of the district, and you have to stay in touch with them and be available as much as you can. Now, I spend a lot of time on the road. I go to, everybody jokes about, Johnny Mouths will show up for an opening of a letter. Well, maybe if it's an important letter, I'll be there. But,
right.
It's important to be out about talking to people. They, generally speaking, constituents will call you when it's an emergency. But if there's things that you need to know, they're not going to call you. You have to go into the community and get an idea of what's going on and get an idea of how you can be of assistance or what advice you can provide.
Right. And because you live in St. Michael's is where you live?
I do.
So you have a restaurant there.
That's right.
Right. So that's your family business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to Wicomico, like you've gotten to know people down here, but what I notice about you is when you come into town, you really do engage people, because it's like not a rare opportunity, but it's an opportunity to really talk about issues here locally. Mm-hmm. It's not people that you might run into at the grocery store. It's you're really seeking out these people to get their input.
Greg, I grew up in the restaurant. I went to law school, but the restaurant's been a big part of my life, and that's dealing with people and sharing lives and stories with people. And my father, he was a dentist in Easton, and he was an old school dentist. He was great. He did it for 44 years, but he was more than a dentist. He was a friend and a confidant for all his patients.
Right.
So I've grown up with that mentality of being involved, and I enjoy helping people out. I enjoy going to picnics, and it's fun to watch good things happen. And it's also, it's a great privilege to be able to help resolve a problem. And there's nothing more depressing than those occasions when there's nothing you can do but offer some moral support. But I enjoy it. So you'll see me out. Yeah, when I'm there at the ball game, I'm there for political purposes, sure, but I'm there to cheer for the team to win. You know, I'm not just going there to show my face. So I enjoy it.
It's an exciting time for Republicans in Annapolis. The governor looks like he's cruising to re-election. I've seen you in Annapolis. I see you work maybe across party lines. You seem to be able to talk to everybody up there.
Well, that's important. That is absolutely critical. You know, political parties, if you look at Annapolis, I'm a Republican, and Annapolis is an overwhelming majority Democratic town. The politics around the country right now, I think, are changing. There's a revolution going on. Governor Hogan here in Maryland has done some pretty amazing things as far as cutting the politics out of the policy and trying to drive policy. I have not agreed with everything he's done. We've had odds. I've been opposed to things, but he's always been there for the Eastern Shore. And he's another person that likes to go out and talk to people and hear from them. And I don't think that there's 100% approval on everything that anyone does, but he has been instrumental. And to me, one of the biggest issues is reining in government and getting it back in the middle, back on track. And so that's been a critical thing. And for me in Annapolis, my role there is, I'm a messenger. I want those other elected officials, the majority, to know how some of those ideas that are being proposed are going to affect our community, our rural community. Oftentimes, that's been my push is, we need our representation and we need our voice heard. And we got a great delegation on the shore. Everybody works hand in glove. And we're in the minority over there. And so we need to be very effective and we need to be very careful about how we explain to the majority, if their ideas are good, that's easy. If they're bad, we need to come up with a very good strategy on how to rectify those.
Right.
And we're not always successful, but the governor's been a partner for us in doing that.
What's interesting about our dynamic here is how involved our people are with the government because of their occupation. So watermen are very involved with governmental regulations and DNR. Farmers, even more so perhaps, small businesses. I don't really thought about that, but in a lot of the country, you can kind of ignore the government. But here, the government really has a hand in everything that we do.
Yeah, we have a very regulated, we're in a very regulated environment. And the Bay is there, so we've got the environmental regulations that apply to affect just about, all of our lives in so many ways. But so people are affected by different government actions and different government policies. And I think right now, nationally, kind of things that are going on is that as people continue to build and work and conduct their daily lives, they're seeing things going on, and they want to know more about their government, and they want their government to be more effective. I think most people realize that their government's not perfect, and especially their representatives, me included. That's my first claim, as I say, I'm not perfect, but they want answers and they want action, and they don't want stalemate. We want to see things move forward, and so I think the watermen and the farmers are a classic example of people who are dealing with issues on a daily basis. When they leave their house to go to work, they're dealing with it all day long. So there is a higher expectation, I think, especially on the shore, that their representatives are active, involved, engaged, and educated.
Do you have a moment from your first term where you were up there and you accomplished something and you're like, I'm glad I was here to do this. This is what I was meant to do.
Well, not necessarily meant to do. I get that on Sunday morning at church, when I'm praying. But I did get involved in an issue dealing with internet and broadband access, and it was one that,
which is an issue in Dorchester and Talbot County. Down on those necks, people do not have access.
Unbelievable issue. Unbelievable, underrated, underestimated. The impact of the lack of access is phenomenal, and in Wacomico County.
Yeah.
If you're in West Side, in my district.
Yeah, Western Wacomico down in Whitehaven. Yeah.
Try to make a phone call. But so I put this bill together, and it got beat around, and people rolled their eyes. Here we go. Johnny's talking about the internet we've been talking about before. And anyway, we were able to put together a bill, and as the bill was being voted on by our committee, they stopped the vote, and everyone on the committee decided they wanted to be a sponsor of the bill. That's when I knew I'd hit the sweet spot. That was a very good moment. That was a great moment.
In your next term, is there some big thing you want to go after that you're thinking, I can't wait to do this?
Well, I'm not a one-issue guy, and there is some wisdom in that for politics if you're building a long career. But I think time is of the essence. I think this job is urgent, and you just need to go as hard as you can go and be as smart as you can be. The internet initiative that we put together is now a statewide initiative.
Right.
We're waiting on some USDA dollars. It would be great to have a couple communities lit up, as they say. The healthcare issue is a phenomenal issue, and coming up with some sort of a solution for people who are caught in that individual market who are just drowning. I mean, we lowered rates this year. It's great. Governor Hogan lowered rates, but are they going to double them next year? What is what's available for people who are not part of a big pool? How are we going to control that? That is a huge issue. The Conowingo Dam. We talked about regulations. You know, everything we do, it could be 10 years of doing things to improve our impact on the bay, and then in 3 days.
Yeah.
I say this, and the dam doors. You know,
Right.
They open the dam doors, and it's almost eliminated north of the bay. The bay is our Rocky Mountain, skyline. It's one of a kind, and we absolutely positively have got to change the course of we're just going to open the dam doors because there's flooding. There's got to be some remedial action. There's got to be. I mean, we should be treating the dam as we treat ourselves. We go through hoops and hurdles to make sure we minimize our impact on the bay, everybody just seems to look the other way. And I've called around, and I'm not satisfied with the answers. There are no real answers, and we've got to have answers. And then we just got a permit for the dam, and the governor put in a few more requirements for the operators, so they've sued the state.
Right.
And the requirements were not that. When I actually read the requirements, I was concerned that they weren't strong enough.
Right.
So that's one big thing. Education is another one. I'm concerned about education. I think this lockbox proposal the governor's put together is great. We need it. But at the same time, you can't just put money into education.
This is taking gambling receipts and putting them into the lockbox. Yeah.
And we have another huge issue, and that is that multi-generational poverty. And so we need to, developing some policies that will help end multi-generational poverty is a huge deal. So the education and the multi-generational poverty challenges are other things I'd like to see us put in place where we can see our community move forward.
How can people get a hold of you to find out more about you and to talk to you?
I'm easy. My cell phone number is the best way to call me and reach me. And a lot of times I'm on the phone, but the number is 410-310-6665. I do it real quick. I go 410-310-6665. And I take text messages, so people can send me a text.
And you have a website with all your stuff on it?
Yeah, johnnymouts.com, and we've got a Facebook page with just some pictures of getting out and about. And based off of the website, you can send an email to me. But I prefer people, or you can send a message on Facebook, but I prefer people, if they've got something specific, to just text me or call me right away, because the phone rings all the time, and I love trying to find a way to help people.
He's Johnny Mouts. He's running for re-election in District 37B. We were thrilled to have him here today. Thanks for being here, Johnny.
It's awesome to be with you. Thanks a million, and I'm asking for everybody's trust and their support again this general election.
Joining me now in the studio is an incumbent from 37B, Chris Adams from Salisbury. Welcome, Chris.
Greg, good to see you again.
Now, you were elected. You're an incumbent. You were elected 4 years ago. You want to be re-elected. What's it been like for you being a delegate?
Well, I serve on the Economic Matters Committee, so I'm a business owner. I'm a fifth generation Eastern Shoreman and have enjoyed the work in Annapolis. As an Eastern Shoreman, we're interested in a few things, but in Annapolis, you try to articulate your points, you try to win debates. You don't do that through ideological slamming your fist. You work, as a business owner does, to develop relationships.
No, wait, did you know that going in?
I did know that going in. I knew that about me.
Right.
There are certainly people in Annapolis that like to stand strong and yell. I've found that in my party, the way we get things done is to work closely with members of our caucus, but also the Democrats, and get things done. In my committee, Economic Matters, it was the same committee that I fought our state back in 2013 and made law change. It's the whole idea behind why I ran for office, is I enjoyed that experience and saw how someone like me as a business owner can get things done, I wanted to do that on a regular basis. The Speaker of the House gave me that appointment to that committee. As a freshman, that's not a usual occurrence. That's a desirable committee, and I've taken advantage of that every day, working with my chairman, Derek Davis, who is, as a bipartisan, member of the Democrat Party. As you'll find, things do pass our committee that I don't like, but usually we do things and try to pare these bills down if they do pass and make them somewhat workable. That was my whole idea when I had to go to Annapolis. They created laws that were completely unworkable, putting it on the business to carry the unfunded mandate or the burden, and I just didn't like it. So in long and short, it's exactly what I had hoped for, to your point, and I've enjoyed that work every day. It's the reason why I'm running again, because I remain upset with the general tenor of the anti-business attitude coming from the legislature. I've found ways to make a difference, kill bills or modify bills, make them workable for the business community, which ultimately is what we need in Maryland, but also the Eastern Shore. That equals jobs, businesses that are profitable, that work well in Maryland, pay payroll taxes, pay corporate income taxes, which leads to money that we spend for education, environment, infrastructure, and it all works together.
One of the things I love about the Eastern Shore delegation is everyone seems to have an expertise. And the thing that's developed with you is the small business advocate, and how the state has regulators have picked on small business forever. You've stood up about that and made some great points during your time, things that I never thought of. You want to continue that, obviously.
Absolutely. And you are right about the delegation. We have ag, we've got someone with experience with being mayor of town of Del Mar, so municipal experience, and Senator Eckhart with healthcare. For my part, in Economic Matters Committee, I've watched, for example, the Augustine Commission, which was created by the legislature before I even came into office, talk about how the state of Maryland needed to improve its entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the reason why, Greg, is because the state's too dependent on federal jobs and spending. So Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Baltimore City, and so they saw a trend over the next 10 years where money would come away from federal spending. We spend too much money, and at some point we had to reconcile that. So what's the answer from the legislature? It was to create better tax policy, better regulation policy, become less dependent on federal and more dependent on the private sector. I still feel like the legislature kind of fights that trend, if you will. We need better tax policy. I've seen our governor work very hard to lower taxes, fees. I'm a strong advocate, stand up for those type of ideas that sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, but you have to have a business owner up there. There are very few people like me who can take the time to walk away from the business for a period of time, go to Annapolis, advocate on that sort of level. You can count it on one hand how many people are business owners in that regard, and you have to have that voice.
You have a family business where everybody sort of chips in when you're not there.
They more than chip in. Yeah.
So the other thing that fascinates me is your district. Really, a Salisbury guy is not supposed to be elected to this district. Yes, it includes Western Wicomico, but at the same time, it extends all the way deep into Talbot County. Mm-hmm. How are you able to run in a district that might not seem like really a home district?
Right. So from a fifth-generation Eastern Shoreman, I have some advantages in that I understand the ag community, I understand hard work. These are principles that matter to most people on the Eastern Shore. You're right in saying that Talbot County is the bulk of the district, so I work at some of a disadvantage that Wicomico is only 20% of that same district, which means that most of my political life is spent away from home, away from a home county.
You're going 70 miles to attend events.
I've got 170,000 miles on my pickup truck, and that's after 4 years, and much of that has been political driving back and forth, and I love the work. Easton, St. Michael's, Tillman, Oxford, Trapp, these are, Cordova, these are communities where I spend a lot of time and work very hard to help these citizens when they have issues. That's a big part of my job, is beyond showing up in Annapolis for the 90 days, is dealing with constituent issues, complaints, or how do we help them navigate government. These are everyday issues that I do a great job. Our office is well known for responding immediately to concerns and working through issues. But it is far away from my home in Hebron. It takes me an hour and a half to get from my front door to the furthest point in my district, which is down in Tillman Island.
What's it been like learning all those new people?
For me, I have the advantage of working under our Senator Addie Eckhart. So she has shown me the ropes when I first came in office, helped me develop relationships within the legislature. But beyond that, I did a tremendous amount of door knocking in 2014. I did it during the primary this year. There's something about meeting someone one-on-one at their home that completely changes who you are as a person. Had I never won office in 2014, the things I learned about myself, about my district, made me a much better person. Most people on the Eastern Shore like to be left alone. I mean, that's their general tenor.
Yeah.
We want to be able to live our lives. We want to do it honestly. We want to do it fairly according to the law. We don't like Annapolis driving policy down our throats. We like our local elected officials making decisions for us. That's why we elect them, municipal, countywide. For the 8 years leading up to my election, we had an administration that had it completely backwards, and it very much upset the Eastern Shore. And let me say to you, that, Greg, this current election for our governor speaks directly to, are we going to go back to those policies that created so much antagonism between citizens on the Eastern Shore and legislature in Annapolis, or are we going to have a governor who, in Hogan, has done a great job of mending the fences, working with local electeds, giving them self-determination, control over what it is they want, how they want to spend their money in their community. That is an essential part of those lessons I learned, both with my senator, but also in meeting with people and understanding my district from a global level.
Has that been the key to his success? Because Republicans are supposed to be uncaring and unsympathetic, but somehow he drives an emotion in people.
Hogan is a listener, and I've seen it a number of times, but he also responds and acts. He does it in a way where, as a citizen legislator myself, I'm aware that he does it in a bipartisan way. He doesn't upset people in his process. He is showing us in the state of Maryland how to govern. And you do that not by putting partisanship first and foremost. You do it by trying to resolve issues no matter where those ideas come from. That is the right tenor coming from our governor. The legislature has its role to play, and that becomes a little bit more antagonistic as we try to get policy and laws passed. But the governor has done a great job, whether you're Western Maryland, Southern Maryland, the Eastern Shore, and frankly the city of Baltimore and Montgomery and Prince George's County, in addressing each community's issues on a one-on-one basis without getting into these unnecessary fights over policy, over just procedure, who I am, who I think I should be as it relates to being the governor, and that works well. I think he'll be well rewarded in November, and it is, from my vantage point as a business owner, the most important election in my generation, because in him we have someone that's corrected our fiscal policy. We have not a surplus, but we certainly have put money in the rainy day fund, and I think you'll see that good budgeting, as a business owner does, makes everything else work well, whether it's pension liability, which we need to make sure we're honoring those responsibilities, whether it's how we spend money on infrastructure and doing it the right way, investing in education, which he's made historic investments in education. These are all good things that come from smart governance, and I'll stop by saying I love the governor.
How can people reach you if they want to ask you more questions?
Well, my cell phone is 443-359-0911. I've got a website, adamsformaryland.com, and you can reach me through that as well. My district office is on Maryland General Assembly's website, and they can get that information as well.
He's Delegate Chris Adams from District 37B, running for re-election to the General Assembly, and we were thrilled that he was here today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, another special election edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.